minutes of sitting up, and now we're up to 30 minutes before we have to do our weight shift. It's good to celebrate Ash Wednesday and Lent with all of you. We look ahead, we know how the story ends. Jesus resurrects. But I think maybe in everyday life at times we forget that. We forget how the story ends. And at times we are boneheads. And sometimes when we're boneheads, we're embarrassed, we're ashamed, or we rationalize it was the right thing to do. Some of my students in the past have heard me say this: a lion is a lion is a lion. We don't have words like, oh, that lion is now an unlion. But we are human and we can be inhuman. A lion doesn't attack a gazelle and take it into the bush and eat it and then say, I told myself I'd never go after another gazelle. Lions are lions. They live as only they can live. I believe all of us in this gym today know how to live. And there are probably times all of us, at least once, should have said, I said I'd never say that again. Or I said I'd never do that again. I think part of Lent is allowing God to know us for who we really are. In Psalm 139 talks about, you knew me from the beginning in my mother's womb. He created us out of love. Where I've been living for the last 3 months at Craig, you see all sorts of things. For those students who came that one night to visit with Coach Herman, again, I apologize. It was not a good night. And Coach Herman brought some students to visit. And before they could come in and see me, well, let's just say my body didn't do well. And they had an emergency stat, which means this whole special crowd of techs, nurses, and doctors had to come and revive me. And the good thing about that is I don't remember. I think those of you who were there probably saw me at the time physically. That was less than stellar. But what I remember about that night were Coach Herman and people coming to visit. Those of you who sent emails or phone calls, cards, praying, that means a lot. Trust me, it means a lot. To know that there are people not just helping me at Craig, but praying outside in this community. Juniors and seniors who've been on projects, the great gift you gave to those people. Anybody who's come to visit, whether I was on the west side of Craig, where I started out, or the east side, the techs and nurses and the switchboard operator always say, those Regis kids are different than other teenagers. So whether you know it or not, you are ambassadors for Regis, because the people at Craig are just amazed. One, they said that a teenager becomes the teacher. And all I said was, if you teach long enough, someone's got to like you. But also your demeanor. Now, why do I bring that up here on Ash Wednesday? Because I think God wants us to be like that all the time. That's what the prophet Joel says. To rend our heart. You know, Lent is a big thing about, what am I going to give up? And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to give something up to remind ourselves of why I'm giving it up. If I'm giving up candy, if I'm giving up whatever, when I'm tempted to eat it or to say it or whatever, do I think of how much God has given me? So I can say thanks. It's the inner, we all know this, it's our inner hearts that are either very positive or negative. You know, when you and I are mean to each other, say something mean, it comes from the inside out. You have the option to say, no, I wouldn't say that. Or to do something wrong. I guess also these last 3 months, God's very present at Pentecost. Some of us are paraplegics, some are quadriplegics, so from here down. But what you see is how human beings care for other human beings. The techs, the nurses, the physician's assistants, the docs, everybody who works there, who didn't even know us when we came in, are amazing. I don't know if I'd say they're our best friends, but we become family. And I get to see spouses taking care of each other, whether they're a para or a quad. The sacrament of marriage is out very strongly, watching these men and women caring for the person they married and love, where they can't do it themselves. There was a couple there when I got there, Bobby and his wife Debbie, they're from West Texas, trying to imitate Debbie and Bobby. Bobby was a quad. And Debbie said, you know, Father Chris, Bobby can't take care of himself from the waist down, but his mind is fine. It's still my Bobby. She said, you know, there's a moment when they're trying to get his meds working. She said, all I thought was, I lost my Bobby. She said, he was goofier than a stomped lizard. I howled at that. I thought that was wonderful. She said, why is it funny? That's why two sophomores. And sometimes they're goofier than a stomped lizard. But this love of this woman, Debbie, for her husband Bobby, who he can't do anything for himself, here down. And yet there she was. And now they're back in West Texas. Or parents caring for their children. There are patients there from age 15 up to some of us.